which is going to be recorded and pulled out to be put on the website along with a number of materials explaining what this forum is. So forgive me if it sounds slightly formal, it's because it's a sort of a dual purpose thing. So if you're happy, Luke and Hayley, we can start recording, and I'll do that now. Okay. So welcome everybody to the inaugural meeting of the Community Stakeholder Forum. Why has the Community Stakeholder Forum been formed? The short answer is the local plan. The local plan will shape how future development takes place across Uttlesford, including where it is located and how it will be designed. The local plan will cover the next 15 years, but we will feel the effects of this particular local plan for even longer, bearing in mind the historic timing associated with the climate and ecological emergency and the COVID recovery. Today's meeting represents the start of a unique method of community engagement. The previous planning process around the current local plan involved a consultation document and an invitation to people to write in over a 2-week period. This forum represents an extensive community engagement programme that will run for almost 6 months and will cover a series of bite-sized themes, allowing people more time to absorb and discuss the issues. And by breaking the document down into smaller themes, people can really engage with the topics that affect them. It provides an opportunity to channel an open consultation into a real-time discussion that just isn't possible in a conventional consultation process. This forum is independent of the council, and therefore these discussions are owned by the community. They are intended to cover a broad range of perspectives and will help the council and its officers more fully understand local wants and needs, and directly informs the council's work on the local plan. The purpose of today's meeting is to establish the forum, introducing members to each other and making sure they understand their role. It lays the foundation for the first theme meeting in 2 weeks' time. I'd like to thank the forum members for giving up their time to be part of this process, and for the council officers who have put a lot of thought and hard work into this process, particularly during a time when they're unable to be in the office together. Thank you, everybody. Okay, I think that was agenda item 1. So we're on our way. Still no sign of Tim, but we have Hayley. That's the other youth council member, is that correct? Yes, is that right? Yes, no, it isn't.
It's Eleanor, I believe.
Eleanor.
Yeah.
Oh, Eleanor, hello. Yes,
Eleanor.
sorry, too many faces in front of me. Right, so agenda point 2 is the role of the forum and the new Uttlesford local plan. The first presentation, I think, is from Stephen, who is unable to be here today, so he recorded his message. And I think Hayley is going to play that now.
I'm getting no volume.
No, nor am I. Okay. Okay, that's not working, Hayley, sorry. Love technology. Presumably that will be the same for Simon's as well.
Yeah, but fortunately we have Simon with us, so whether he's able to
your role,
yes.
deliver it.
Yes, I'm just wondering if we could try something else. I might be able to have a copy on, so I can get it on SharePoint. So I could just see if I could put Stephen on, if I'm able to share a screen. So if you bear with me just a moment, I'll see if I can find it.
I think that's the same thing I'm doing. I'm just playing it from SharePoint.
Oh, right, okay. But are you having some problems with your connection there, Hayley?
No, not by the look of it.
Okay, well, I'll just see. Let me just see. I'm nearly there. So I can just see if I can make this work.
Which you then continue, Simon. So do you want to try and summarize both bits?
Sure, we'll do. It'd be helpful if I could just put on my screen so I can show you. I've got a couple of slides I need to show you. So I'll just see if I can put those on my screen in readiness. And then we're ready to go. Good, okay, so fine. So I'll just get my notes. I've rehearsed this, so. Good, okay. So I'm Simon Payne. I am the Local Plan Project Manager, and I want to tell you about the Community Stakeholder Forum that has been set up to help the Council prepare the local plan for the district. The forum is chaired, as we've heard, by Angela Dixon, who is an independent chairperson, and a selected small number of groups and organisations have been invited to sit on the forum to start the debate about local plan issues. And at each meeting, subsequent meeting, there will be a presentation. This will be all done online. And then there'll be an opportunity then for the forum members to discuss that presentation. And we've got 9 topics, so we'll go through one topic per meeting. Then what happens is probably the most important part of the process, and that is that we will ask everyone to comment on what they've heard and to add their input into the particular topic. And this can be done, we would prefer it to be done online, so there will be a link to a pro forma to fill out for each topic. But if the preference is to write in, then there's an option to do that as well. When all the comments have been received, then the forum will review them. I think we're going to do that, Luke, on a topic by topic basis to try and make it manageable. At the end of this part of the process, which is expected to be in spring 2021, the Council will publish an issues and options document, which will be based on the discussion at the forum and particularly everyone's comments. The issues and options document will be a very important part of the local plan evidence base. It will help guide the decisions of the Council on the local plan. We believe that the forum will allow more people to get involved at the earliest stage in plan making, and we will therefore end up with a better plan. And I just wanted to show, now let's see if the technology works now, but I've got a couple of slides which I'd like to show you. Let's see if this works. Hopefully, can you see a slide of the district? So the local plan covers the whole of Uttlesford district, and it's quite a large area. It's 247 square miles with 3 towns and about 100 villages and hamlets with a current population of just over 91,000 people. The district is bisected by 2 main highway corridors or transport movement corridors, east to west, the A120, north to south, the M11, and the West Anglia main line, railway line. And of course, it's a largely rural area. The challenge here really is, there are many aspects of the challenge that we have in producing a local plan. not least the significant landscape quality. And there are a whole range of designations across the district. And you'll see this map, I'm sorry, it's probably appearing very small on the screen, but it sets out a range of different designations, important landscape designations, historic parks and gardens and landscapes across the district. And there are lots of small, it looks like measles, but there are lots of smaller designations there. What's important here is that this covers the whole of the district. And in addition to the landscape quality, there are a whole range of heritage assets. In this case, it's even smaller, but I can tell you in that plan, there are 3,700 listed buildings, for example, and 34 conservation areas. So it's quite a challenge for us, and to make sure that we're taking account of all these designations and all the other factors which are important in terms of producing a good local plan. The forum, I believe, has a vital role in helping the council prepare the plan. And we need a plan that protects the special character of the district, supports zero carbon development, and ensures all communities end up by having a high quality of life. Thank you.
Oh, you're on mute, Angela.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Simon. These first few things, obviously setting the scene for our discussion, and apologies if you've already got the hang of what's going on here, but obviously this will be recorded and going onto the website for the public, so it's important, I think, that we continue to set the scene and get and move on to terms of reference before we get into some introductions, which will be very nice to meet all of you and understand who you all are. So Luke, would you like to take us through the terms of reference?
Yeah, with pleasure. And I'm not going to go through line by line in terms of reference. The document's been circulated to you, but just to briefly outline. So it goes through the structure of the forum, and then it sets some objectives as well. And this is all consistent with what's already been touched on here, that alongside what will be so rather than doing a conventional consultation on a single document, setting out a load of issues, we're breaking this down into lots of bite-sized chunks, going through it theme by theme, so we can gather lots of rich information about people's knowledge and their opinions about different topics. And there'll be a consultation document published for each of those in time. The Community Stakeholder Forum sits alongside that open consultation that will be taking place. So what it is, as some of you hopefully aware from the invites that were sent to you, you represent some local representatives that have some kind of special interest. So we've got the special interest areas listed elsewhere. And it's trying to make sure that on top of the open consultation that we're doing, we're making sure that we're hearing things from lots of different perspectives as well. Because what happens after all of this, once we get to the end of the consultation in the spring, is the council will need to go away, think very carefully about the comments that have been received, and then start putting together a draft local plan. We'll then consult on that in due course. But the forum itself is a really important tool. It's completely new to us. It's something that hasn't been used before in the district, that hopefully will help us just gather those opinions. So the terms of reference also go through explaining that we would hope that forum members speak with colleagues, with other people they know with similar interests as well, so they can try and sort of bring not necessarily just their own personal views as well, but some of those from others, and making sure that we're covering all these different perspectives as well. So yeah, I won't go through the terms of reference line by line. You've seen them in advance. So I think at this point we can just open it up to any questions about, what do people think? Have they got any concerns about anything that's in there? Any points of clarification? And then myself and Simon will be able to answer those questions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is this form of reference or terms of reference something which follows a procedure which has occurred elsewhere, or is it completely new?
Yeah, should I take that? I think yeah, it's completely new. So this is as I said, this isn't an approach we've taken before. It was a straightforward consultation on a single issues and options document, is what it was called last time round. So yeah, this is a new forum, and these terms of reference have been drafted afresh.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just add to that, I mean, I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to enter this process with an open mind and in a way which allows a broader range of views to come to the fore early on. So, you know, whereas normally the officers go away and produce a document and then everyone comments on that. This way, we're trying to get the community to raise the issues and then allow them to produce the document once we've listened to them.
We have a hand up from Samantha.
Yes, hello everyone, thank you. I just wondered, I think it was Angela or Luke, I'm sorry, I don't know, can't remember who mentioned it, but we get to add our input online. How long do we get to add our input after the initial presentation?
Okay, so the input, so more than welcome to input. So when we talk about opening up for a consultation, that's for the wider public or wider community. So anyone can contribute, anyone can make comments. The forum itself will have a role in discussing the content within the meeting as well, but could submit comments separately as individuals too, that's fine. In answer to the question, how long? It's 4 weeks from each theme. So what we'll do in the next item is I'll try to run through sort of the mechanics of that and how that looks, and how it all feeds into decisions that are taken afterwards.
Yes, I was slightly confused with that. I thought that you were saying that we would submit our, well, not us, not me, but sorry, this forum would submit opinions in writing, but you meant the public, didn't you? And the opinions of the people in the forum will be expressed during the meeting.
Correct.
Okay, good. Any other questions on the process? I expect we'll get the hang of it more as we go along, and we do one. Okay, thank you very much, Luke. So now we're on to item 3, community engagement programme, and I think we're back to you again, Luke, on how the programme will operate.
Yes, sure. So there are 2 papers for this item. There's a chart, a Gantt chart, which I'll talk to in a moment. Hayley, if you wouldn't mind just getting that ready on the shared screen, that would be helpful. And then there's an accompanying note as well, but I will effectively do the job of that note just now and just try and run through and make sure people understand how the process will work. So hopefully, Hayley, that's okay for you to pop it on. That's lovely, thank you. So this is the Gantt chart that was sent through to you. So looking at it all together, it probably looks a little bit overwhelming. It's a bit of a mess, but if we zoom in, thank you, Hayley, you're reading my mind. If you could zoom in a little further, please. What we'll do, we'll just make sure that we can see. Yeah, that's brilliant. So the way this works, down the left-hand side, the y-axis, we've got the different themes that we'll be going through. So in a moment, we will scroll down so you can see what all of those are, but it's in some of the other literature too. So, and then on the x-axis along the horizontally there, we've got the weeks just numbered, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. weeks. And then so what we'll do, it's a process that will repeat for each theme as we go through. And so there are 9 different themes. So if we just look at this where you live one, so this is going to be the first theme that will be introduced to you in 2 weeks' time. And so what we have on the left-hand side, where you live, then we've got the 3 main groups of people that are involved here. You've got the Community Stakeholder Forum, we've got Local Plan and New Communities team, so that's us officers. And then there's Local Plan Leadership Group, and that's a group of district councillors. So if we look at the Community Stakeholder Forum line there, what you see is in the first week, in week 1, what happens, the first thing that happens for a theme is it's at a meeting like this, you get the presentation. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a guest speaker for each theme. So this will be someone who works within that field or has done some sort of study or something relevant to it. And they'll deliver a short 5 to 10 minute presentation and try to provoke some sort of initial discussion. So it's, not expecting the forum to have strong views at that point necessarily, but to try and draw out some sort of initial reactions to the material. And then what will happen is that presentation, so as I say, it'd be like a 5 to 10 minute video, plus a short consultation document that we officers would have prepared. They will go on the website, and that starts a 4-week consultation with everyone. So that's the whole community, anyone's able to get involved. And so that's that next bit of the row in that sort of lighter yellow that you can see there. So it goes consultation with wider community. In the meantime, in that green band, that's the work us officers will be doing. We're going to be summarising the comments that come in as they come in, so that then what we can do is return at week 7 to the forum, delivering this summary of the comments that have been received through the consultation, and then the forum considers that summary and then has a discussion around what it thinks are the key points coming out of that we need to consider. So it's really important to stress here that, we've intentionally, as Simon was saying, we're trying to make sure our minds are as open as possible and trying to draw in all these different perspectives through the forum. And by its nature, we accept that many of you and those that will be joining the forum won't have necessarily much experience of the planning system. Some will, but others won't. So we won't expect you to tell us exactly what we need to do in a planning sense to address an issue. But what we really want to get from the forum is what it thinks are the key burning issues that need to be addressed. And then it's for us to go away to work on that and really try to get to grips with what we can do with the local plan to address those issues. So what happens, so we're now at week 7, aren't we? And then back to the green band, it's prepare recommendations based on those key points. So these aren't going to be full recommendations. These are going to be what we officers can take from the key points that you've drawn out of that wider consultation, and then work up a set of just preliminary recommendations, things that we might want to be able to, bits of work, studies we might want to commission to help us prepare a local plan that addresses the key points. And so then we'll present those to our councillors at Local Plan Leadership Group. So that's week 9, and then they can consider the key points and consider our recommendations alongside them. And then they can start to tell us, whether we ought to start doing certain bits of work on the local plan. And then what we'll do is we'll come back at the next meeting of the forum after that. So that will be week 11, feedback to the forum. So you can see what happened with the comments, with the points that were raised, how we've made sense of them as officers, and then what our councillors want us to do with them, which is of course on a preliminary basis. So what we do, we go through that same repeatable process. It's staggered, go through theme by theme. Hayley, if we could just scroll down so we can see we've got where you live. So this will be people reflecting on what they've got around them, in what they appreciate about where they live, what they value about it, and how they might want to see it improved. And then character and heritage, climate change, transport, leisure, healthy lifestyles, business, homes, and then finally creating new places and communities. So this would be very conceptual about where things ought to be placed and what people want new communities and new places to look like, and then anything else as well. So we expect there might be things we miss throughout the process, and we want to make sure that everyone's had an opportunity to contribute whatever views they have. And so that final theme will incorporate some time for people to make any other comments as well. So yeah, we repeat that process all the way through, we get to the end, and then what we'll have to do at the end is the document that Simon has described in his introduction is we'll then need to make sense of all of that, and we'll work up some more final recommendations once we've seen all of it, because there are no doubt going to be interrelationships between these themes. They're not completely distinct. It's just a way for us to try and make it bite-sized and a bit more accessible. So, we'll make these preliminary recommendations on the way and then have a final set by the end, and then we'll set to work on the draft local plan. So that all makes sense to me, but I put together the chart. So really at that point, I think it would be great if we could open that out to the forum to see, are there any elements of that don't quite make sense that you'd like further clarification on? I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
I have a question, Luke, sorry, which is obviously in some weeks we seem to be at 2 different points for several themes. So is it likely to get to the point where we will be discussing 2 different themes in one meeting but at different stages?
That's correct, and I'm glad you picked up on that. So what you can expect from that, so at the first meeting, so in a couple of weeks' time on where you live, I anticipate that might be a shorter meeting. It might only be an hour tops, because all you're receiving is a presentation on that topic and then an initial discussion. So that could be quite a short meeting. What you can expect is kind of in the middle of the programme, it will swell a little bit, because say, for example, if you take week 11 maybe. Hayley, would you mind just scrolling down a bit? Yeah, perfect. And just up a touch. Sorry, yeah. So in week 11, you'll have, you'll be being introduced to, it's just off the screen, whichever one number 6 is. You'll be receiving a presentation on number 6 theme on healthy lifestyles. At the same time, you'll be highlighting your key points from the climate change theme, which has been in the consultation, has taken place already. And then you'll also be receiving feedback on the where you live theme, although that'd be a relatively quick item. So I think what you can expect is, we set aside a 2-hour window for these meetings, but you can expect it'll probably be 1 hour at the beginning. It will swell to up to 2 hours in the middle, and then it will taper down again towards the end. But hopefully by the middle of the programme, we all know what we're doing very well, and it's all working very slick.
Good. Does anyone else have any any questions about that process? No, everyone.
Yes, I have, Angela. There's one thing. It's Anthony Armand-Jones. Quite simply, you said there'll be a presentation by an independent person. Who will choose that person?
Okay, I mean, that's selected as things stand by us officers. So we absolutely mean it when we say the forum is independent. We have an independent chair with Angela Dixon, and we want the forum to really, along with the community, own this conversation. So, there are things here that are up for discussion. So we will already be lining up some speakers for certain themes, but if the forum have in mind particular people they think might be appropriate, we can take that into consideration as well. But what we'll be looking for are independent speakers that have some sort of expertise in the fields. They're not going to, we're not going to have in a 5 to 10 minute presentation someone who can comprehensively cover all the issues related to climate change. That won't happen, but we can have someone who can perhaps touch upon some particular areas and you know, highlight some work that they've done within that field as well, and then open that up to some sort of discussion. So yeah, I think we could certainly take on board any ideas that the forum or others might have about speakers, but we will, to ensure the program runs smoothly, we will need to be, we are already lining up speakers for some of these themes.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? It's Frank. So if we miss one of these presentations, they're recorded, is that right? So we can catch up later?
Correct. Yeah, correct. So the meetings will be recorded and kept online. So we'll have those, they'll certainly be on our YouTube channel, and there'll be links from our webpage. So we'll keep the full meeting recordings, but the main thing that will be putting front and center on the theme will be, it'll be a short document on the theme, and then also the presentation from that speaker. As I say, it will be quite a short presentation and be done in such a way to be a good standalone video as well. So we fully appreciate that there'll be lots of people that may not have, you know, might be time starved, not have much time to really spend on this. They might have found their way to the web page because they're not quite sure if they're interested yet, and we want to make sure that the information is easy to look at really quickly, and then hopefully inspire something within people to make them want to provide comments to us. So yeah, we're designing the materials with that short presentation and a short document accompanying it to be yeah, very easy to follow for people.
Thanks.
I think Samantha had her hand up.
Yes, thank you. I just wondered, I'm probably jumping ahead of myself and it's going to be in the next 2 weeks, but where you live just seemed a really general concept, and I wondered about that. The others seem, well, like obviously defined. I didn't really relate to the first one.
It is,
anyway,
okay.
All will be revealed in the next at the next presentation.
All will be revealed in 2 weeks' time. So where you live, in a sense, it could be seen as a good way of easing people into it, I think, in a way. So where you live, it's actually going to touch on, most likely, it's going to touch on all the other themes anyway, but it's going to be trying to get the forum and then also the wider public through the consultation that follows, get people really reflecting on what it is that they value about where it is that they live now. So start to think about, what can you walk to, what do you drive to on a daily basis, you know, what is it you've got in reach, what is it you like to use every day. I mean, I'm not going to go through it all, and it's my colleagues that have prepared something more detailed on this, but, you know, it's putting people in that mindset of, you know, what is it you value about where you live and what might you like to see improved. So yeah, it will throw up a lot of things that will come up again as we go through the other themes.
It's a bit of an icebreaker, isn't it? Sort of a general introduction to the whole process. Is that right, Luke?
A little, but it will also genuinely come out with some useful information for us as well. So when it comes to local plan, it's you know, it's not always about you know, the way you live. It will be relevant for us to consider when thinking about development and uses that will be appropriate in existing places as well. So how they complement what's there already. And also trying to understand what is it people value about where they live now, and then how might we take that into consideration at the very final theme as well, when we create new places and communities as well. So it will have relevance to all the different aspects. So it will be genuinely useful, but also hopefully kind of a good icebreaker. And you know, there'll be things that it throws up that will be able to be revisited under different themes as we go through.
Thank you. Did anyone have any comments on any obvious omissions in the themes?
I would just add to that as well. So one of the invitees, Tony Morton, unfortunately had to give his apologies, so he couldn't attend this meeting this evening. So Tony was down as, or he is down as the nature representative or nature conservation. And I think he wanted to stress the point that there's no mention of nature within any of those themes. Now, I mean, I just thought I owed it to him to at least raise that to the forum to see what kind of views there were there. You know, there's two ways of looking at it. I mean, because nature, along with lots of other issues as well, you know, that's going to be relevant to all the different themes that we go through. But it's, you know, whether nature deserves some sort of extra prominence by being attached to one of the other themes. So not necessarily saying that's the right way to do it, but it's a point that Tony had asked to be raised, and I thought I'd just throw that out to the forum to see if they think that's something they'd like to be added, and if so, is there a particular theme they think that could be attached to? I think that's a hand from Louise.
Well, as you know, we've declared a climate and an ecological emergency, so you could put it with the climate change, I would think would fit in well with that, because it definitely is something that we need to discuss. So as both are in a crisis.
I agree. I think it could be a subheading, couldn't it, to that, and possibly another theme as well. It could be something we come back to a couple of times as a subheading. Would you agree, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, for the same reasons that Louise has said, I think that would be the natural fit, is to make it a climate and nature theme. I think that the way to think of it as well is shouldn't feel too constrained by some of this as well, because there'll be things that crop up. So, for example, in leisure or healthy lifestyles, people might be inspired to think about the role of nature in their healthy lifestyle, for example. And you know, we wouldn't want people to feel that they'd missed the chance to talk about nature when they're prompted to do so through healthy lifestyles. So I agree. I think it's good to give it some extra prominence by adding it to the climate one, but then also wouldn't want people to feel constrained to not bring it up at other themes as they feel inspired to do so.
Any other omissions or any other comments on the themes that are listed here, or indeed the order?
Could I just chip in on that last one? And I think nature is a good word. I think biodiversity might be a better word, in that it's not just that we want to preserve the natural world. We want to rediscover the biodiversity that we've already lost. And so I think it's, you know, that word biodiversity, I think, is one that we want to capture somehow. And I noticed that that's one of the written questions that's already been submitted as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think two other hands have gone up. Can you see who those are, Luke?
Oh no, so they're hands from attendees, so these are the viewers. To be honest, I wasn't aware that was a function. Apologies to those viewing. The hand function is really being just for those within the meeting as panelists. We will at the end of the meeting have a short Q&A session, so we'll pick out a few questions from the Q&A. Sort of down at the bottom, you should find the Q&A function. We'll pick out a few questions at the end for the forum to discuss.
But Samantha, I think you do have your hand up. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, just to echo what the last speaker said, I agree. Biodiversity is very important. I watched the David Attenborough recent programme, and I agree that's a good word to add. And I would echo Luke's comments as well, that I can see it's relevant to section 2, character and heritage. We have open spaces or lack of them. 5, leisure, as you say. 6, healthy lifestyles. Yes, we need our open spaces. 7, no, not 7. It's a March, but 9, creating new communities. We do need to be aware of how we interact with nature for our well-being. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Samantha.
That's great, thanks. So what I'll take from that, unless anyone sort of disagrees, I think what I'll do is take from that it will be biodiversity will be added to the climate one. Yeah, it sounds like it's been understood as well that it's, you know, it doesn't mean to say it can't be talked about, and indeed the same for all the other themes as well. You know, there will be things that come up as we're discussing one theme that will be relevant to another theme, and we want people to not feel constrained. But what we were keen to do with by setting things out in themes was to be able to then break it up into these chunks. And so that's what we talked about, is something that departs from the more conventional consultation that does everything all at once. We're trying to make it easier for people to engage with by breaking it down into these manageable chunks. But we don't want to stifle people and prevent them looking at the interrelationships. So that's great. Thank you for that.
Thanks very much. I
wonder if I could just come in. I've been waving my hand, but you probably can't.
Colin, I can't see you on my screen.
I was looking for the blue hands. Sorry. Yeah, happy to answer a question.
I don't see anything, Luke, regarding safety and crime.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's a fair point. I mean, it can be, you know, people, certainly homes could be one. So people talking about living in secure homes. It could be about where you live now. It could be about creating new places and communities as well. I think it's, yeah, I mean, happy to hear what others think as well. It's something we could look to address, although it we just need to be careful about trying to break things down into too small. Well, it's not a small issue. That's not what I'm saying. But you see, it's trying not to break things down too much, because we kind of really for the program need to keep it into this number of things. Safety in your environment
is not a small matter.
Correct.
I would like to think that that's quite an important matter, that people need to be safe and secure, not just in their own homes, but in the environment that is around them.
Do you think, Colin, that that's another one that's kind of a subheading that could come into a number of different subjects? So it's, you know, when I say a subheading, something that we very specifically tackle as a part of other subjects, for example, transport.
Yeah, I think you're right, Chair. I mean, I just wouldn't want to see it fall off the pile. That's
understood. There's another way that it could be dealt with, which is so we've got the different themes that we'll be going through, but also we've got it's the people around the table as well. So one of the we'll get to the item about membership as well. So it might be that there's a representative that you think might need to be on the forum to be able to represent that interest throughout all the themes. So that could be another way that safety is addressed, by making sure we have someone representing that special interest area on the forum.
Okay, I think either one of those, Luke, or possibly both, would answer Colin's question. But you're absolutely right. It's an omission we need to address one way or the other, or in both ways. So thank you.
That's noted. Thank you, Colin.
Can I chip in, please?
Yes.
It's already been pointed out that this is very much an agricultural area, but agriculture is not a topic specifically named. We've talked about biodiversity as being possibly added as a new theme. What do you think?
Yeah. Is there any within those already you think it might have? So there's obviously business. Business isn't always as urban you know, it doesn't have to have that kind of connotation. Obviously agricultural industry, hugely important in a district like Uttlesford. So I think certainly in business, that could be a place potentially, again, without feeling constrained to not bring it up in, say, climate change, character and heritage, for example, because it has an aspect, has a role there.
Okay, if anyone has no more comments on those themes, are you happy, Luke, that you can incorporate the comments we've had so far?
Yeah, absolutely happy to accommodate those. So it's the biodiversity and the crime are the main ones there. I hope you were happy. Agriculture might be covered there with business. But I think perhaps if forum members reflect on it as well, feel free to contact me with some suggestions. It might be the way that we phrase these as well, could indicate sort of some of the areas they touch as well, because some of these are quite generic titles and might not appear at first to cover something. So, oh, is that a hand up from Samantha?
Thank you. Yes, just a small point about business. I wondered if there's another side to that, which is employment, that we need to talk about, or is that a heading that would be appropriate?
I think this would all again, obviously we could come up in some capacity for a number of themes, but yeah, I think that's perhaps where business is one that gets rephrased. I think in fact it did start off as a longer title as well. I think I shortened it to make it a bit more punchy, but I think we perhaps need to expand it again to indicate the breadth of that theme. So that's something we can look to do.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm going to move the discussion on because we're an hour in. And I would like to get on to member introductions. And in particular, I think Alison needs to go in about 2 minutes. And as we're asking for 2-minute introductions, I wonder if we could start with Alison. Sure. Could we stop sharing the screen as well, please, Hayley, so that we can see everybody, which would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm really sorry I've got to go. I was only invited yesterday, so I kind of snuck it in. And I noticed I'm not on the list, so I'm kind of assuming that you even want me here.
We absolutely want you here. You're not on the list because, as you say, you did only just find out yesterday, and we thank you so much for joining us at such short notice, and your name will be on the updated list. So yeah, I won't take any more of your time. Be pleased to hear your introduction.
Okay, so my name's Alison Wilson. I live in Uttlesford. I live in Saffron Walden, and I work for Mind in West Essex. So I'm here kind of partly on behalf of the voluntary sector, because I also am the co-chair of the Essex Voluntary Sector Alliance. But specifically, I'm going to try and advocate for mental health in this, which is another thing that impacts on all topics, people's housing, people's transport and everything. So I didn't mention it earlier. Obviously, healthy lifestyles is an obvious place, but all of these things impact on people's mental health. So I'll try and hold us accountable for that. I don't want to do that on my own. I hope everyone's going to help me with that, but I will try and get the mental health thing in there. That's anything else you want to know? Does that work?
That's good.
That was good for me. Yeah.
Perfect. And yeah, you've got my contact details. I'm really sorry I've got to go, but I have. And
that's fine.
I'll listen to who everyone else is on the recording, if that's okay. And I'll see you all at the next meeting. And
that's brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us this evening at such short notice. Thank you, Alison.
Thank you. Bye.
Right, good. So I'll introduce myself now. So I'm Angela Dixon, and I am the independent chair. My day job is chief executive of Saffron Hall. So I obviously present concerts there, but also we have an extensive schools and community program. So I do get round and about Uttlesford a certain amount. I've lived just over the border in Cambridgeshire for 16 years, so I'm very familiar with the area. Our offices are within the council offices, and that has meant that we've been working quite closely with a number of departments within the council, and I'm very happy to be involved in facilitating this forum, and I think it's great the council have given the community this opportunity to feed into their local plan. Next, what about Frank? Would you like to go next, Frank?
I can do, yes, thank you. Okay, this is just something I've made up. I didn't actually have any brief for a member introduction, but I'm Frank Woods. I'm a retired quality director of a pharmaceutical company. So I've got experience in sort of quality assurance systems and in IT in particular. I've been living in Clavering now since 2017, but for the previous 40 years I was living in part of Harlow. I've spent many years as a primary school governor, and quite a few years of that as a chair of governors. Currently, I'm a trustee of a local multi-academy trust in Harlow, which is a particularly successful one regarding disadvantaged children. I'm a keen member of the Clavering Landscape History Group, and that's the one which nominated me for this forum. So I'm currently supporting some archaeological investigations and conducting family history research for various local residents, and just enjoying the heritage of this fascinating area. Another important point, I suppose, is I'm also actually deputy chair of the Hands Off Clavering organisation, which is a well-established group of residents against the urbanisation of our village. So I'm gradually developing quite a familiarity with local planning processes and documentation, but I've got a long way to go before I understand it very well. And finally, I'm head greenkeeper of Clavering Bowls Club as well. So that keeps me horribly busy. I wish I could retire.
Yeah, I always find that people have a lot to do and they just get more and more things added to their list, Frank. So thank you so much for finding time to be on this committee. Thank you so much for this forum. Okay, shall we move on to Colin?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. I'm currently the chair of the local strategic partnership for Uttlesford, albeit I'm a stand-in tonight temporarily until we can appoint a representative from that partnership. But so who are we? Well, we're the umbrella partnership that's made up of senior representatives such as the District Police Commander, voluntary and community sector champions, the Senior Area Manager of Essex County Fire and Rescue Service, our own Chief Executive, Dawn French, here at UDC, the Chair of the NHS West Essex Health and Wellbeing, and our objective is to improve the quality of life in this district. And to put it simply, we're the partnership of the partnerships for this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Excellent. Maeve, you're on.
Hello. Let me just get on my little notes. Do you want me to just introduce what we've been doing in the Youth Council and stuff?
Yes, a little bit about the Youth Council and a little bit about yourself. Be great.
Okay. Well, my name's Maeve and I'm 17 and in my last year of school, so I'm taking my A-levels this coming summer. And I've lived in Saffron Walden for most of my life, moved here from London. And I chair the environmental working group of the Youth Council, and Eleanor, who's also on this call, I think, chairs the local plan working group. And so as like a collective, the whole Youth Council, we've had a couple of meetings since the start of the academic year. And that's as a whole unit and also in our individual little groups. And I'd just like to say that we really appreciate being involved in the larger council unit because yeah, it just feels really good to have our voices being heard. And so far we have a few points about the environmental action that we can offer that we've kind of worked out together. So firstly, there are weekly litter picks that go on at Audley End on Sundays that some of us are looking to attend together. Obviously school stuff's quite busy at the moment, but we're going to try our best with that. And we're also in contact with the schools in Uttlesford to link with their green teams because most schools have a little section of their student councils that focus on the environmental action there. And so we're trying to get a member from each school to be involved in our environmental working group meetings weekly. So we can kind of act via the schools and promote stuff like obviously recycling, which most schools are already quite good at, but also events like clothes swaps and also secondhand textbook sales. So that's obviously helpful to students and their families and also really good for the environment because it reduces the massive paper waste that can go on. Also, regarding social media, especially amongst young people, that's a really useful platform. So we've been trying to get our Instagram page running and working a bit more. So in an effort to soon release potentially a little survey for the young people of Walden and the surrounding villages, specifically about any concerns they have about the environmental stuff going on in Saffron Walden at the moment.
Okay,
So,
that's great, Maeve. Could you in fact even use that to help you inform some of the things we're discussing on this forum?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've been writing some stuff down as you're talking, so I'll definitely discuss that next time.
And are you and Eleanor going to be the two permanent representatives of the Youth Council, or are you rotating?
So the way that the Youth Council like to do it is because we obviously are made up of our little working groups primarily, we tend to kind of consider what's actually going to be going on in the specific larger council meeting and then kind of sort of send someone accordingly. And then of course, so for example, after this meeting, I will be reporting back to the entire Youth Council in our next meeting, which will be happening next week.
Okay, great. And then you'll probably do environmental. And then if we have an environmental theme, you'll be the person representing that, presumably.
Yeah, for that, yes.
Thank you, Maeve. That's brilliant. And Eleanor, if we just come to you quickly, and you could maybe just add to that a little bit about yourself and anything specifically you're representing on the Youth Council.
Sure. My name's Eleanor Game. I'm 17, but I'm in my penultimate year of school, so I'm in year 12. I'm actually relatively new to the Youth Council, and we've just started the local plan working group, which we haven't actually met yet. So I don't have anything to feed back, but obviously we'll meet over the following week and then have things to feed back. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you, Maeve. John, can we come to you next?
Yeah, hi, I'm John Goddard. I'm the local Baptist minister here in Saffron Walden. And I'm carrying a faith brief, but specifically on behalf of Churches Together in Saffron Walden. At a recent church leaders meeting, we had a little discussion, and I thought I would volunteer on this one. See my regrets list later. Now, this looks like it's going to be fun. My confession would be that I don't have quite such good links throughout the whole of Uttlesford, and we'll need to do a little bit of work on that. Although, as a Baptist minister, we do have little Baptist chapels in Thaxted and Ashton and Great Samford. So I've got some notion of some of those villages, but it was fascinating to hear that there's 100 villages and hamlets across the area. So quite a few I'll need to discover. I've only lived in the area for 7 or so years, having previously been in post-industrial Cumbria and rural Oxfordshire, but growing up in the Peak District of Derbyshire. My wife works within the local area in Great Chesterford, and both my boys had their last years of schooling at County High here in Saffron Walden. In terms of other interests, yes, you will get me excited about issues around the environment, particularly wildlife. You'll see me out and about bird watching. And on a more socio-political level, I spend quite a bit of my time advocating within the religious field for justice for people within the LGBT community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Dan?
Hi, evening everyone. My name's Dan. I'm the Cricket Operations Director at Essex Cricket. And I was replacing my colleague Graham Pike tonight, but actually we're representing all the governing bodies of sport, and I will pick up with Active Essex. It might be listening to tonight's meeting that they might have a better representative to come forward. Obviously, from an Essex Cricket point of view, we have over 40 clubs within the Uttlesford area, ranging from small village clubs to big clubs like Saffron Walden that go through the programme. The key thing for us is to make sure the playing pitch strategy that was never completed is completed and is taken account for with any of this proposed planning that goes forward in the future. It started in 2018 and still hasn't been signed off, so it's a key part for us through the sports network that is seen and agreed by Uttlesford as part of the planning process going forward.
Thanks very much, Dan. Anthony? Anthony, are you?
Yeah, sorry, Angela.
No, that's right. Don't worry.
Thank you. I'm Anthony Armand-Jones. My brief is transport, although my work has nothing whatsoever to do with transport. When I used to commute by car, I got so fed up with rush hour travel. In the end, I started to commute by train. Then the trains went downhill, so I thought, well, I'm bound to get into real trouble here. And after 25 years of commuting by train, I retired, only to find that despite the fact that I wanted to do absolutely nothing when I retired, I started to pick up things to do after 6 months, and within a year, I was asked to put my name forward for the as chairman of the Attlesford Transport Group. I think that's the right expression. Anyway, I changed it to coordinator, because, quite frankly, chairing the group, which really didn't exist to any great degree, was a bit silly. Then I started through that to become chairman of the West Anglia Customer Panel, which was very interesting, although that seems to have been disbanded, and I've ended up as a committee member of the Stansted Airport Consultative Committee. Meanwhile, my wife wants me to be at home, but there we are. That's the way things are. As for work, well, I was involved in the law. I'll say no more than that.
Thank you. Well, whilst we're on Zoom, you are at home, so she's half won the battle, so that's good.
Yes, in the other room this evening, yes.
So, Samantha.
Hello everyone. Yes, it's lovely to be amongst such a diverse group of people, and my brief on this on the stakeholder committee is diversity. So I used to work at the Equality and Human Rights Commission, so I know a little bit about various areas like disability and age. So to me the most important things here at the moment, although I do have an open mind, are that we have disability and poverty and issues about young people getting housing here. So that's my initial impression. I want to think about all the issues and talk about them and develop some insight into what really matters here. The environment is really important to me, and sustainability as well for our future generations. I also think coronavirus has had a big impact, so it may affect lots of incomes in our district. So we've got issues of poverty affecting lots of people, possibly from now and to the future, in the near future and possibly the far future. We've got disability issues as well, and possibly things like long COVID. We've also got the challenges of the government white paper, which may affect us locally in terms of how our community can respond to what we need in our area. We've also got our lack of infrastructure and open spaces. Wellbeing is really important to me, and I recognise what the other lady said about mental health as well. So I'm interested in all these issues and how they connect together. I do have an open mind, so I would like to think and reflect and talk to all of you about that and learn and develop some insight into what matters and how we can make our district better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samantha. Louise?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Louise Pepper, and I'm in charge of the environment and green issues and equalities. Before I became a district councillor, I was in a steering group called Stop Eastern Park. So I sent in objections for Reg 18, Reg 19 and the sustainability appraisal. I see my role on the independent panel as someone who is fiercely passionate about protecting and enhancing our local environment now and for future generations. I have knowledge on local planning policies, and we can aim, and how we can aim towards achieving sustainable communities and net carbon zero developments. UDC have set a carbon net zero by 2030. Everything we do in council should reflect this. We already have community engagement in our climate and ecological working group, and I value their knowledge and their open input. We are currently working on a climate strategy action plan and an interim climate planning policy document. We believe that people and planet should be at the heart of all planning decisions. So that's how we feel about everything. So again, and I'm also suggesting to, or going to suggest to the youth councillors, if you ever want to get in touch with me and be part of what we're trying to achieve, please, you know, and anybody else on this panel, please get in touch with me at any time if you want, you know, me to have a look at anything that you're concerned, any concerns environmentally that you have in this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you for that. And actually, you raise a good point at the end, which I would like to make. Louise is a councillor, but I just want to say to everybody that on this panel, she is acting as a representative of the Ecology and Climate Change Working Group and is not here in her capacity as a councillor. The other thing I'd just like to add is that the group is not political, and we will, well, I will be trying to police anything political that comes up, because we want to represent the whole community and this is not a political forum. And I'm sure you will understand that. And I'm really excited by the introductions we've had, and as a few of you said, I think it's going to be really fun. And really interesting getting to know you, getting to know the groups that you represent. And I'm sure that lots of people in the community will be approaching all of you to discuss these issues, and hopefully you get you more in touch with even more people within the district, which I think is going to be really, really good. Thank you very much for the introductions. I should say that, of course, not everybody is here this week. And so what we might do as new people join is we might ask them to introduce themselves just as we have done, so we make sure everyone has been introduced. I have got everybody, haven't I? I didn't miss anybody. No, great, thank you very much. Okay, the other thing to ask, of course, about membership is we have a number of groups listed here. Are there any groups that people feel strongly should be part of this that aren't represented at the moment? No? If anything does occur to anybody, do please drop Luke a line, and I'm sure he'd be happy to look at that. We had a few other things we wanted to ask about membership. Do we think that if we were discussing a specialist subject, let's say transport, that do people feel that specialists, if we're having a specialist subject, extra guests should be asked around that particular theme? Is that something anyone has a strong opinion on?
So just to add to that, oh, sorry, Louise, I see your hands coming up. But yeah, it's what we're trying to do is obviously have there'll be a relatively fixed membership. We might have some of you, there's going to be a demanding schedule. There'll be lots of meetings. It might be that occasionally you need to swap in a colleague or someone else to take your seat at a meeting now and again. So there might be a bit of that. But generally speaking, we're talking about this fixed membership that will be no more than 20 people, because really what this forum's about, we've got the open consultation with the whole community going on. This forum is the opportunity to get a diverse range of voices together and actually have the real-time discussion. So that's the thing that hopefully will throw up some really exciting things from that discussion, rather than sort of a more one-way process of just receiving comments. So we've got a rough limit of sort of, well, 20 is what we've said, to make sure that it's a manageable meeting and so that everyone gets a chance to have their say. But yeah, the point that Angela raises there about guest members, it might be, so on a theme we'll have, of course, a guest speaker who will have a good knowledge of their theme or an aspect of it. But it's whether you'd want someone being invited for certain themes, and it might be that you think of it as we go through the program for a theme that's coming up. You might think someone ought to be invited to be within the meeting, not to be part of the forum itself, but to try and add to that discussion, because there might be an extra layer that you might struggle to get to without that specialist knowledge. So that adds a little context to it. And I'm aware, Louise, you had your hand up, and others may do too.
Well, again, we're talking about transport and sustainable modes of transport. And again, Colin has been involved in this discussion, and we're talking about the safety element of cycling. And obviously, that's quite a crucial thing that that has been made known, that people just don't feel safe, unfortunately, to cycle around here. So Colin was talking about, obviously, you know, that the police might be able to offer, you know, give some assistance as far as how we can travel more safely when we cycle, and, you know, what to look out for, and, you know, what dangers, you know. So again, that's something that we've just touched on today, actually. So that's sort of quite a key issue for us, is the safety element.
So you are advocating for guest.
Yeah, well, that was maybe one suggestion, was maybe getting a policeman to come. You know, that was something that we've been discussing even today, that maybe we can have a sort of communication with the police and how they can maybe again assist, you know, in helping, you know, local residents, and how they can, you know, be more roadworthy, if you like, and how they can maybe.
Sorry to interrupt you. Are you suggesting that as a speaker, a guest speaker, or
maybe as a speaker part? Yeah, maybe just as a speaker, you know, just to help with.
Not somebody who's permanently part of the membership.
No, just as a speaker when we talk about the transport element, and obviously that's one of the elements that has been raised as the safety issue. How local residents don't feel safe cycling. You know, again, partly because we're a rural community, and we can't facilitate with cycle lanes, but many people enjoy cycling. It's again due to the, you know, to the pandemic, it's become a very popular theme. Yeah. So, you know, and again, as far as the climate change issue and sustainability, we want to promote it. So,
okay, so just staying on the theme of the membership, I think what you're saying is it would be useful to have, even if there was a speaker about transport, it would be good to have a guest that also, in again, sort of addresses a slightly different angle. So maybe more than one guest speaker.
Maybe, yes, I think that could be something. Yeah, if we could look at different angles as well, yeah. That, okay. You know, again, yeah.
Sorry, Colin.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to expand on that really with what Luke has said. And this is no disrespect to Dan and Essex Eagles, but I would suggest that more people show an interest in soccer in Uttlesford. And when it comes to talking about sport, we mustn't just focus on cricket. And that's where I think the guest speaker to come in, possibly from Essex Football Association, would be an advantage. We've got, I think there's an opportunity here where we have to think quite wide and bring as many parts of the community into play. As I say, a lot of children, of course, play soccer.
Yeah. Absolutely, Colin.
And Essex County Council and the English Cricket Board are, you know, involving more people, especially females, into the game, which has traditionally, of course, been a male sport. So they have to be applauded there. But I think there is a wider issue with sport, which goes on about health and well-being and everything else. So there is an opportunity, I think, and we shouldn't miss that, of bringing in guest speakers.
I'm sure everybody that's on the panel realises that they have a responsibility to represent a very wide view across their subject. I mean, as John was saying, he's got 100 villages to visit, so everyone will be taking that responsibility very seriously. But thank you for raising that, Colin. It's a good point. So I think we're advocating, Luke, for having within a theme maybe more than one speaker, or at least a guest who can expand on what the speaker has said, or come in on a particular subheading again.
Yeah, I think one thing I'd say is we're very keen to try and limit it to one speaker and one short presentation, and the reason for that is what I said about being able to use that as that alongside a short document being the main material for people to look at when they're coming through to the website and potentially making comments. We're trying to make it sort of easy for people to follow. I mean, what we'll ask the speakers to do though is to try and really cover, you know, much like a lot of you around the virtual table are being asked to do, is you're looking wider than perhaps what your specific role is. So, you know, we talked about sport, and obviously Dan, his colleague Graham, who will be attending most of them, I think, will be looking at wider than just cricket, at sport generally. So we'll be asking speakers to try and touch on a range of different issues and open, you know, explode out the theme and its different facets to try and get a discussion going. So we'll be asking a lot of the speakers, but that should be what they're doing. I think, so we'll probably try, we'd really like to try and stick to the one presentation because it's that short video that then we can put on the website. But what we can absolutely do, I think it sounds like there is an appetite potentially to have guest members of the forum to contribute to the discussion that comes from that presentation. So I think one way that it could be done, and I'm happy to listen to views, is whether, so say for example, we've got an agenda item on this agenda for what's the next theme. So as we've discussed earlier, the next theme is where you live. There might not necessarily be a standout guest member for that one, but say for others, when we do get on to transport, for example, it might be that the forum think that there ought to be some police representation for the reasons that Louise just said. So, you know, I think perhaps when we get to that item on each agenda of what's the upcoming theme, that's an opportunity for the forum to identify whether there's a particular group that might be able to attend, you know, one or two attendees that can come and just help contribute to an aspect of the discussion.
Thanks, Luke. That sounds like a good solution. Hope you're happy with that, Louise. Yeah, great. Samantha, you have your hand up, I believe.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Angela. I just wondered if we should have another category of these 1 to 10 that you've got listed on the left-hand side of your Gantt chart of infrastructure. I know we've got transport down there, but just looking at what the region, the district needs in terms of infrastructure could be other things like health facilities, schools, roads, and open spaces. I know there's an overlap with the environment and nature there as well. But I just wondered if we need a category for infrastructure. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll certainly take that comment on board. I think that is something we need to reflect on. Infrastructure, because it can come up through something obvious like a transport theme will flag up probably where transport infrastructure is required, but there's lots of other bits of infrastructure that might fall through the gaps of those themes potentially. So yeah, that's something I'll have to take away and think about. It might, unless anyone sees an obvious linkage. I mean, one thing that we'll be keen to do, because it is an extensive engagement program anyway, in terms of this will take us through to spring 2021, and we do have a responsibility to try and stick to that program so that we can get the local plan in place as quickly as possible. But so with that in mind, I'd say if anyone sees a linkage with one of the other existing themes, you know, one of those that could be expanded to include the word infrastructure and things that go with it, be happy to hear any ideas there. I think Simon's shaping up to speak.
Yeah, I mean, if I just comment on that, I mean, this is slightly, this is the issue which we were wrestling with as officers, because there are cross-cutting elements of all of these topics. And there's a really important infrastructure element to each of the topics in their own right. And I think it's really important that when the speakers are being briefed and the officers are producing the topic paper, that they're reflecting on those issues too. And I just wonder, thinking aloud here, if panel members have got particular suggestions to help the officers both in briefing the speakers, or indeed selecting them as we're going forward, but also preparing those notes, I think that would be very helpful too. but in the end, we want to try and keep it in this manageable. I mean, it's large as a process already, and to get through it by the end of March, effectively, it's quite a challenge. So we're going to have to think about how we use that time in a really effective way. And I think we would certainly, as officers, value your suggestions as we do our preparation for each of the forum meetings.
Thank you, Simon.
Angela, may I just simply respond on the matter of transport? Very simply, it is this, that if one picks one subject and has a speaker on one subject, then in those circumstances, you'll get nowhere with regard to all the other matters related to transport whatsoever. It's got to be somebody who can speak across the board, not somebody who's going to make the case relating to this or that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. So obviously we'll have someone that will have a particular role within that theme, but we will be asking them to try and get that coverage across the theme generally as well. So yeah, hopefully that's successful.
So
it's going to be very difficult. There's a very limited amount of time. Not only there's a limited number of months and a limited number of weeks and a limited number of times we can actually come together and speak. And so we're going to have to be incredibly general and incredibly focused at the same time. And that's going to be very difficult. But if we want it to be meaningful, we've got to try and cover as much ground as we can. And that plays into what everything Luke has been saying about keeping the membership tight, keeping the speakers to a minimum. But as Anthony says, the speakers are key because they've got 10 minutes to cover everything and also say something meaningful. So they're going to be pretty amazing. All suggestions welcome. Frank.
Yeah, so I was just going to say on sort of the wider infrastructure, the likes of schools and medical facilities, is that something that's within our scope of discussion within the local plan? Because they tend to be county or regional provisions.
I would urge people to try and not restrict themselves too much. Let us officers worry about what we can do with the local plan. We're not expecting you to all be planning experts and understand exactly what policies we can put in place. We really want it to be an unconstrained discussion. So any points that you feel that you'd want to make as we go through this programme, please raise them and let us see what we can do with them.
Okay.
Samantha?
Yes, thank you. I do see an overlap with the transport issue that you've got noted on the Gantt chart, but I wonder if it's too broad to put all of infrastructure in there and some of the relevant issues will get lost then, because I don't know how much time we'll have to discuss it in one session. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do see where you're coming from. I think we'll need to reflect on it. It's also on a bit of what Simon said as well about it can be partly how we brief the speakers and frame each of the consultation documents as well to make sure we touch on infrastructure in each of them, perhaps.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things to bear in mind as well, of course, it's really important to bear in mind that alongside the forums work will be the open consultation as well. And there will be particular organisations that will be seeking to engage in that consultation and making contributions. There'll be all the different infrastructure providers, water companies and things. So it's, there will be a lot of people feeding into the wider consultation. This is more a question of what we put as the themes and the membership of the forum, but I think it's something we probably need to think on a little further as to how we make sure that infrastructure is clearly addressed.
Yeah, and just to add, I think what's important is that the forum doesn't have to write the local plan. We're not expecting you to write it and come up with all the answers. What's really important is that you're identifying the priorities and the issues that need to be addressed. If there are some answers that pop up as we go through that, then that's fine. But we're still at the front end of this huge process, and there's far more value for us if you're identifying 10 different issues that need to be addressed and what those issues are, rather than concentrating on one issue and trying to find a solution to it.
Great. Thank you for that clarification, Simon. There are obviously a few things we do need to look at there, Luke. So we will look at that and the infrastructure issue, and come at the next meeting, let you know what the thoughts are around that.
I think there's a hand from Louise.
Oh,
I think I just spotted it.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say again, you know, obviously as we're focusing on sustainability, that's how we've phrased our transport theme is, you know, sustainable, you know, means of transport or mode of transport, I should say. So again, that's how we've, you know, again, what we do is we look at existing forms of sustainable transport, which obviously also includes the cycling, walking, public transport. But equally, if we're looking at the new modern, we're looking at, as far as infrastructure, providing, you know, EV charging points for electric. So again, that's how we try and, you know, look at the whole transport system as a whole, as far as sustainability. So that's how we can focus on it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. If everyone's happy, we'll move on because we must try and finish this first one on time. Wasn't this supposed to be one of the short meetings, Luke? Yeah. Okay.
This one's a one-off. This is making sure we all understand the task at hand. The next one will be the short one. Honestly, that will be the one under an hour.
Okay, good. So moving on to 6, this should be fairly quick because this is really about just signposting the available resources. Do you want to talk about that, Luke?
Yeah, so really the key thing is the web page, when I last checked before this meeting, it wasn't yet live, which is a little frustrating. We're hoping to have it live in time for the meeting, but it will be live very soon. The web page, that will be the place to go. We'll be signposting everyone to it, and then it will be from there that people can access what they need to. So as I've explained, there are going to be, for each theme, what we want people to be looking at as an absolute minimum is just looking at what we'll prepare a short consultation document, just setting out some information about the theme. And then there'll be the short video as well, which is of the speaker's presentation from the meeting, and they're the 2 key elements. So they'll be there on the web page. People can look at those, and then they can link through to our consultation portal to put in any comments that they want to. So yeah, the web page will be keeping it updated once it's there. Any suggestions as we go along. So just for noting down, I think it might already been there. It's uttlesford.gov.uk new-local-plan. And from there, it will be a page of consultation and community stakeholder forum. And so that's where we'll be putting everything and the links. So that's the thing to highlight. That's what we want everyone to be aware of, the place to go. And then if anything's not clear on that, anything's missing, please shout, and we'll look to address that. We'll obviously also be doing lots of, there'll be lots of communications going out over these next 2 weeks in particular, trying to ramp up in front of, before the first theme. So yeah, there'll be stuff going on social media as well. We'll be signposting people to it as well. We're just trying to funnel everyone through the website as far as possible. And then we'll also be getting the message out by other means as well to make sure that those that genuinely can't access the website for very good reasons are catered for as well, and we can get the material to them too. That's probably it on that item, unless anyone's got any questions.
Great, thanks very much, Luke. So then moving on to the upcoming theme, where you live. So we've discussed this a little bit already, but do you want to talk about this one, Luke, or do you want me to introduce this theme?
No, there's probably not too much to say at this point, to be honest. I think we've got Dr. Noha Nasser joining us. She's a speaker. And I think I might have put some information in your notes, Angela, and I haven't kept them for myself. But yeah, Dr. Nasser will be providing a presentation, I think, on 15-minute walkable neighbourhoods, and then, you know, trying to explore the theme through that way, and talking about all the various things about where people live, and trying to engage all in an exciting discussion around all sorts of different aspects. So, you know, really hoping that it is a theme that's quite, you know, it's different to the others. It will touch on lots of aspects, and I think there's a question, and that's the bit I put in your notes, Angela, that Dr. Nasser would like you to reflect on in advance of the meeting.
So the question that Dr. Nasser would like us to reflect on in advance of this particular meeting is, what makes your neighbourhood special? I think you did mention previously, but this is the specific question: what makes your neighbourhood special? So if you could all have a think about that, and that will help the discussion of that theme. I can see Louise is already excited.
It's hopefully a nice relatable theme as well, because, you know, it's very much, it tries to put you in that, you know, it's very personal. You know, you think about where it is you live, and what it is you use, what it is you value, what you'd like to see improved and things. So yeah, hopefully a good way to generate a good bit of discussion and start opening out some of the different themes that are going to follow.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So then the final item we have is question from viewers. And I think in this we want to also talk about some snap polls that we want to do in the future discussions, and maybe do a test. So do you want to talk through that, Luke?
Yeah, so what we want to do is try and make these meetings a little interactive. So as I said, we don't expect everyone to dedicate lots and lots of time to, so when I say everyone, people that are coming through our website from the wider community, don't expect everyone to dedicate lots of time to watch the full meetings and read lots and lots of papers and things. But at the same time, there will be plenty of people that hopefully do become more and more interested. And so for those that are watching, we want to make it a little bit interactive. So this section will have Q&A, and in a moment I'll just take a little look and see if we've got a couple of questions come up in the Q&A box that haven't been answered, and put those to the forum. But then also we'll want to use live polls to some extent. We want to at least try using them, see how successful they are. Now, it might be that these are used by some of our speakers, and these polls will be for the viewers, not for those of us in the room, so to speak, but for those that are watching. So it will be a way for us to get a little bit of opinion, a little bit of information that might contribute to the discussion. So they're not binding votes or anything like that. It's just used potentially as a tool to try and aid the discussion and try and get a bit of influence from the wider viewership. So, you know, that it might be that people have a particular view that surprises some of us, and then we can consider that through the forum. So we've got a little test poll just to show you how it will look. I see Hayley's appeared on the screen ready to launch the poll. I will warn you, we don't have many people watching because, of course, this isn't. We're going to be pushing this, pushing out our comms for the next meeting to make sure lots of people are watching. But this will at least show how it's worked. So the poll's running now, and this is for all the attendees, so all those viewing. I think we could.
Oh.
We've given it 32 seconds. Are people seeing this live, or is it just me? Yeah.
That's it.
So you see, we have a grand total of 12 attendees. So, you know, we're obviously going to reach thousands eventually. I think if we just leave it, if we stop it at the minute, that'll be fine. Yeah, okay. Will you be joining us for Where You Live on 11th of November? We've got 100% saying yes, so that's a good success rate. If that's 100% of Uttlesford district, then we're really doing a good thing. But yeah, so we want to use that tool. Just thought we'd just test it in this meeting just to show you how it works. And yeah, that's hopefully going to add to the discussions. I'll just see if there's any questions. I had been monitoring a few. I think some of this we've touched on around we've got questions about biodiversity, agricultural community, mental health, water supply, incredibly important issue, absolutely. Yeah. So so if I just read the question, it's, will water supply feature in the programme? We live in an area of rare chalk streams and an overexploited aquifer. New housing will require a water supply. That will absolutely be covered somewhere. It can't not be. I don't know if Simon has a thought there as to where that would fit, but it's...
I think it's a theme which crosses a whole range of different areas. So when we're obviously talking about climate change and biodiversity, chalk streams are a really important part of that. Addressing the housing elements, when we're looking at water usage, both existing and in new properties, and how we're accommodating that in the new developments. So yeah, I think we will certainly make sure it's featured. And again, I think possibly what we should do is have a sort of checklist which we can apply to each of the topics, trying to spot these cross-cutting themes. So water is one of them. We've touched on infrastructure, just to make sure that we're picking those up you know, in the presentation if it's appropriate.
Thanks very much. Any others you want to address, Luke?
No, so we've addressed most of them, and then there's one around a suggestion for with transport. So it says, in terms of transport and its role in planning, I would recommend a speaker from the Chartered Institute of Highways and Transport who have done major work in this area. So yeah, absolutely, we can take that on board. I don't think we've confirmed our speaker yet for that one, but yeah, we can take that on board as well. So I think what we'll probably do when we just need to think about how we use the Q&A for future meetings as well. You know, some of them will be questions to us officers to take away, but you know, we also want it to be used as a way to interact with the forum itself. You know, we want it to be the forum having its discussion and leading that, and then so people from outside putting in some questions. So yeah, it's how we kind of phrase that to people when we introduce the Q&A in the meeting. It might be something, Angela, to cover at the beginning of the meeting, to say there is the Q&A function there, and you know, generally, of course, there'll be some things for officers, but also try and use it as a way to interact with the forum and try and get questions debated, or not debated necessarily, that sounds a little bit tense, but discussed amongst the forum.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. I will introduce that, and hopefully the officer that's responsible for that topic maybe could filter the questions and
yeah, absolutely, and then we can monitor them throughout the meeting and pick out a few for discussion at the end.
Okay, great, thank you. Does anybody have anything else that they would like to add? I think we're on to AOB now, are we? AOB. So is anybody have anything that they would like to add or comment on or say? Simon?
Just to say, if we haven't said it already, that we'll post Stephen Miles's video online so that panelists and anyone else can see it. And I just wanted to add my thanks to you, Angela, as chair, but also to all the panelists. I think it's a really exciting forum. We've got a range of different views, and as officers, you know, we're really keen to produce a fantastic local plan. So this will be a really good start to that, I think.
Thanks, Simon.
Yeah, and I'd just like to echo that as well. Thank you all so much for it's for some of you it's very short notice, and to get this group together. I'm really pleased, and we'll be adding, of course, to try and fill those vacant slots as well, and really looking forward to the next theme in a couple of weeks' time. Having met Dr. Nasser as well, I'm sure it's going to be a really engaging presentation. Really excited to to get into that and get into the discussion afterwards. So yeah, thank you all for joining, and yeah, hopefully it's going to be a really exciting and rewarding process.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Look forward
Thank
to seeing
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.